Okay. I don't remember the champagnes. What is it? Champagne?
Champagne for everyone or something, or everybody. I'm not sure exactly, but something along those lines.
I don't remember that, but we can talk a bit more about it. First of all, I'd like to say welcome to everyone for joining us for another episode of Tell Me Where I'm Going Wrong, a podcast where two exes who are still really good friends talk about every topic under the sun and then some that aren't under the sun, because we talk about things like things that don't exist in the real world. So we talk about love, politics, history, ethics, eating disorders, everything. We talk about everything. I'm Sean and that's Josh. How are you, Josh?
Hi, Sean. I'm good, thank you. I am a little hoarse because I've been rehearsing all morning.
A pony.
What?
A pony?
What? A pony? What?
You're a little horse.
Oh, right.
A pony.
It's terrible, terrible joke. It's a worse joke. It's worse than my Sophie Tucker joke from last week.
Yeah.
But no, I'm hoarse because I've been rehearsing all morning. So I've been singing for about 2.5 hours. So I may or may not get through this episode with my voice intact.
Where were you singing?
At home. A friend came over and we were rehearsing together. So we just were going over and over songs, and so it was a lot of singing, and I feel like my voice is cracking.
Did you do warm-ups before?
I didn't do warm-ups. Do you know, well, that's not true, actually. I was in the shower before they came over. I was in the shower and I was just doing a bit of like singing to warm up, and I stopped because I was in the middle of a song and I was like, what is that noise? And outside the bathroom in the gardens, that you know, the neighboring gardens, these two cats were like screeching like Wah! And I was like, my God, I hope that's not a response to my singing. It was I don't know what was going on. They sounded like they were sort of having some sort of turf war or something. It was
maybe it was a sexual thing.
Possibly. Do you remember the possums in Australia when they would be like on heat or whatever, and they would go running across the tin roofs and screech like banshees, and yeah, you didn't know if they were killing each other or just fucking each other, or it was just
tin roof rusted. Why? What a horrible saying on heat is. Like, what's the etymology
on
of that?
Heat.
On heat.
I don't know. Giving off the heat, you know, giving off those vibes. But
on heat.
I remember when I was growing up, my friend across the road, she had I don't know, it was like one of these houses that had like 6 dogs, 10 cats, like all sorts of animals. But they had this one poor old dog, and every time it was on heat, they used to put some dungarees on her so that the other dogs couldn't, you know, impregnate her and make her pregnant. But I just remember her sort of slouching around in these old dungarees. Poor old thing.
Well, I've just done some live research, which we're famous for here.
Mm-hmm.
And the first Google result says the term in heat. So we're saying on heat.
On heat, in heat, in heat.
This is saying in heat.
Mm-hmm.
Refers to the period of sexual receptivity in female mammals. So it's predominantly to do with females of a species.
Okay, but all female mammals? Like,
well, it says
humans?
In female mammals, particularly those that are not primates.
Oh, okay.
When they are fertile and can become pregnant. So it's a period of heightened sexual activity and receptivity to mating. Receptivity is such a weird word. I don't think I've ever said it before in my life.
Receptivity.
It sounds like something that Alanis would try and work into a song, like I believe in receptivity or something. But you know, she always says, like, she's got that song with reciprocal. I can't even say it.
Reciprocity.
Yeah. Like,
does she? I know there's that Lauryn Hill song where she's got reciprocity. I didn't know there was an Alanis song with reciprocity. It's a good word to work into a song, I think.
It's hard to say. I can't say it. How do you say it?
Reciprocity. But that's different to what you were saying before about being in heat. That's what was that word?
Receptivity.
Receptivity.
Like you're ready, wide to receive. It's so awful. In
That's
heat, on
vile.
heat.
You're vile,
Um,
Sue.
it sounds such a horrible term. But yeah, I'm trying to think of that Alanis song.
Well,
Um,
yeah, just while you're looking for the Alanis song, just and also on along the lines of being in heat, is that what we're saying? In heat or on
in
heat?
in heat. Well,
I'm
I
sure
mean,
you
you
can
can
say
say
on
either.
heat as
You can
well.
probably say either, right?
Yeah. But then speaking of dogs, I've got I'm dog sitting at the moment, so there's a dog sleeping on my bed, just
Yeah.
literally like a meter or 2 meters away from where we're recording, and I'm hoping she's going to stay calm and quiet. But just if you do hear some like growling or barking, just know that it's from Uma, the dog.
Uma.
Uma, named after Uma Thurman.
Oh, how sweet.
I don't think she's in heat at the moment. I don't know if she's had. You know, they can. I don't know what they do. You can have dogs desexed, can't you, to stop them from being on heat or in heat.
Is there another term that isn't on heat or in heat that isn't so gross sounding? Like
Well, what was the one you said?
receptivity, and
Receptivity.
so
I mean,
receptivious.
are you in receptivity at the moment?
Like that could be a good pickup line in a bar.
Mm.
But except you're only meant to use it to the female of the species, so it'd be not
So
much
it's
help
wasted on
with it
us.
for us.
Yeah.
But we could co-opt it and turn it into like a gay slang for like being horny.
Well, I think maybe we should just swerve around this subject. I think we might be losing viewers as we speak.
Okay.
Unless you want to go all in.
Well, I want to tell you about the Alanis Morissette song that I'm thinking of is
All right.
Narcissus. But isn't it called Narcissus Boy or is it called Narcissus?
I would have thought it was called Narcissus Boy.
Yeah, well, here it's saying
And
it's called Narcissus.
Wasn't that allegedly about what's his name, the guy that died?
Taylor Hawkins.
Yeah, wasn't it about him?
Yeah, because it's like singing to, well, it was alluded that it was about him, but it's talking about like a self-centered man who is immature, sort of lives in a sort of extended state of adolescence, who doesn't take much emotional responsibility. And she says that she has this line where she says, "Dear popular boy, I know you're used to getting everything so easily, a stranger to the concept of reciprocity. People honor boys like you in this society." So, but it's so typical of her to use those sorts of like phrasings with tons of, how do you call it when you've got a word that's got a lot of syllables in it? And that's her songwriting style.
I just realized my microphone's like quite far away. I think I forgot to move it, so I'm just gonna move my mic and hope that doesn't like disrupt the sound on the episode too much. But hopefully,
I could hear you.
You could hear me all right?
Yeah,
okay.
Perfectly fine. It doesn't sound any different now.
Well, also, I just realized I think I was like maybe subconsciously straining my voice because the microphone was over there, but now that it's nice and close, maybe it'll save my voice. Yeah, I don't know what the technical term is. I would just call it a long word.
Yeah, but there must be a style for that songwriting style or something. Because she'll often have a word that's got a lot of syllables in it, and she'll pronounce it in an off.
Like
manner.
Supposed former infatuation junkie. Yeah.
Or when she says, what's that song where she says the word illusion, but she goes illusion, like,
don't know.
You're not up with your Alanis lyrics today.
There's a lot of precious illusions. No.
I'll think about it and then I'll come back to you.
But no, I was thinking of another song of hers. Is this just an Alanis Stan podcast now?
Yeah.
I need to ask you a question about that in a second, actually. But no, I was thinking of what's the lyric? I think it's that same song when she goes, what's that song about? Like you when you dance, when you freestyle in trance.
Oh God, my brain is not
But she
working.
says she's got I don't know any of the
So
lyrics.
pure. It's
So
called
pure,
So
yeah.
Pure.
But what's that lyric before the chorus? And she says, "You send me pointers and you ask poetically." And I don't know what she's saying. What's she saying? Poetically?
Poetically, yeah.
Poetically. But she pronounces it like
I,
poetically.
I think
Like,
it's poetically.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's this other song of hers called 21 Things I Want in a Lover. Do you
Hmm.
know that song?
Yeah, I remember that. I
And
remember, well, yeah, talk about it first and I'll tell you my memory.
and when she says, are you both masculine and feminine, politically aware, and don't believe in capital punishment? It's just so wordy. There's so
Hmm.
much, but there's the bit where she said something about illusion, and the way she pronounces illusion in the song, she's like,
In that song,
illuse,
21,
yeah,
21 Things I Want in
she
a
says
Lover.
illusion. But I
Okay.
can't find it now. Anyway, I'm not going to spend the whole hour. Oh, here, no, I found it.
We're not going to spend the whole hour, but
Um, do you have a big intellectual capacity, but know that it alone does not equate to wisdom? Do you see everything as an illusion, but enjoy it even though you are not of it? But
Alanis.
the way she says illusion, it really tickles me. And she does that a lot in her lyric delivery. She really like spaces them out into weird sort of, is it a cadence or what do you call that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like timing or
t-
phrasing.
timber, like timbre.
So
Yeah.
what were you going to say
But
about
I was going to
Alanis?
say, no, I remember when we went to see Alanis at was it the El Rey? No. Was it the El Rey? Where did we
We'd
meet
seen her
Patricia
at
in
the El Rey,
Nine?
yeah, in the El Rey Theatre,
At the El Rey
Los
Theatre. And
Angeles.
so it was, I think it was after her second album had come out. And when I say second, I'm talking about as in her sort of her adult career, not including her child music career. But like, what was the
I
second
think it was the
album?
third album.
But she premiered a couple of songs at that show that were new that none
Hmm.
of us had heard before. And I remember one of them was 21 Things I Want in a
Yeah,
Lover,
so
and
that's the third one.
the other one was Flinch. And
Uh-huh.
do you remember, because it was the first time we heard it, and the lyric I think is you affect me like you are my father. But the
My
way she
dad,
pronounced,
yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, it's you affect me like you are my dad. But the way she was singing it, pronouncing it, we were all looking at each other because it sounded like she was saying, "You fuck me like you are my dad," and we were all just like, "What the fuck? Like, what's?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, it was her pronunciation of effect. She was like, effect.
you affect me like you. Yeah. Anyway, we don't want to
Um,
get sued by Alanis. We love you,
so,
Lannis.
I've been thinking of going to see Alanis at
Mm.
the O2, your favorite place in the world. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of money. There are so many concerts. Gaga is taking precedence this year. I don't have a lot of money. But then for some reason last night, Hill started playing that MTV Unplugged Alanis album, the live
Mm-hmm.
album.
Yeah.
And it is like, it just instantly takes me back to all those feelings about why I love her and like the time of my life, different times of my life where these songs meant something to me. And her voice is so incredible. And I was just like, oh, I really should go. Like, I should go. And then I looked, it's in July. And I
Mm.
looked, and the cheapest ticket is at the very, very top of the O2. I mean, like the back at the top, like almost the back row. And it's still £85 or something. And I'm like, oh, but I want to be
Yeah.
there. Even if I'm that far back.
To me, that's just not worth it because, I mean, the O2 is such a pain to get to and get home from. It's so big and it's so you'll feel so cut off from the stage. She'll be tiny, you'll be just watching the screen all night. I mean,
But
I don't want to talk you out of it, but just for me, like it wouldn't make any sense.
it just feels so, you know, like I remember I saw her at the O2 a little while ago, a couple of years back, and I had very good seats, like I was in the ninth row or something. And just that feeling of being in the space with her while she's singing live is so special. Like, I cried at the last time I saw her. I know that sounds really cheesy, but I was so moved, and I've seen her countless times. Like, I kind of
Mm,
remember,
mm.
but I want to go. And then I'm like, well, will I go by myself and sit up the top? The going by myself bit isn't a problem. I don't mind going to gigs on my own.
Yeah, I don't
You,
mind
you,
it.
you went to a gig the other night, right? Who did you
Yeah,
see?
I went to see Ron Sexsmith, and do you know, actually, it was, I don't know if I told you this, but I came to your event first. I came into the vegan social just for a little
Hmm.
while to say hello and get a bite to eat, and I left, and I left up very sort of like, oh, I'm sure there'll be plenty of time.
Yeah.
I literally got into the gig as it started. I was so fortunate that I left when I did. Because he was on at 8:30, which is really early. There was no warm-up act.
Oh, okay.
And what I didn't realize, because I just got a notification that the tickets went on sale, and I mean, I love Ron Sexsmith. I think he's an amazing, amazing songwriter, and lyricist and
Hmm.
singer, everything. So I just bought the ticket, but what I didn't realize was that it was an album launch party.
Oh, right.
And so, yeah, he did this early gig. It was all seated. It was all seated, um, which was amazing. So, yeah, at this age, I love an early gig, and I love a why do I keep saying it? A seated gig.
Are you on
Um,
heat?
I know I'm in heat. Um, so I loved it, and it was really, really
What
good.
venue
How
was it?
It was the Water Rats in King's
Well,
Cross.
that's
I
tiny,
haven't.
right?
Yeah, it's a tiny little place. So the last time he was in London, he played at the Palladium, like a big,
Okay.
big theatre.
Mhm.
And so yeah, it was really nice to see him in a small venue. It was just him on stage, and it was really, really good. And he, yeah, he sold out the gig. But when I got in there and he just came on stage, I was stood at the back for the first two songs. And then I realized that there were a couple of seats in like the third, fourth rows or whatever.
Mhm.
And so, okay, am I the asshole here? But like,
Yes. Straight
I
away,
waited.
yes.
You don't know the story yet, but I waited until he'd finished a song, and then I went to one of the rows, and there was one seat, three seats into the row. There was a seat, and so I said, "Oh, excuse me, can I squeeze through?" And these two people, like they'd sat at the end of the row, so like blocking the only way in and out of that row.
Okay.
But then B, like one of them wouldn't get up, and they had some, I don't even know what it was. It was like a fucking suitcase, in front of them, and I had to literally like do some gymnastic maneuvers to get over it. And I was just
Okay.
like, for
Well,
fuck's
first of all,
sakes.
there's a few
Go
points of
on.
clarification here.
Okay, go on.
When you say acts of gymnasium style, was that just lifting your leg up to stand over it? Or did you have to
Well,
do a
no,
round off triple somersault?
I had to literally like brace myself on the row in front and
and
the back of the chair,
and vault
and
over the
and
like a
yeah,
horse.
and vault over the top. And
Okay. Also, were these tickets numbered?
no,
Or was it just sit wherever
no,
you want?
sit wherever you want. So I'm
Okay.
like, you don't sit at the end of a row when there's only one way in and out of that row, and there are empty seats there at a sold out show. That's just an assholic thing to
And
do,
the
I think.
third thing
Mm,
is, and this is for one of our regular listeners, Michelle, who is always seems to be telling us to consider people's situations,
mm-hmm.
like like when we complained about people taking food at the vegan potluck, and she said, "How do you know they weren't trying to get the food first before everyone else touched it because they might have a phobia of germs?" Or so Michelle's telling us to consider other people's realities that might not
I
be.
did consider it. I did consider it, and I didn't say anything to these people, and I did
You're
consider that
just
they might.
calling them out in public because some of the reasons why they might be sat at the end, they might not have been feeling well, and they wanted to make sure they could get out easily. If
Mm-hmm.
that
Yes,
person with that wheelie trolley bag, it might have been a colostomy bag on wheels, and you were
it
like
wasn't.
trying
It wasn't.
to. How do you know? Did you look
Because I
inside?
at the end of the show, I saw them get up, and it was like some fucking wheelie suitcase thing. Like, but it looked like like a photographer might carry their equipment around in a like a reinforced case sort of thing. It looked like that, and I'm just like, mate, like, if you're gonna go to a gig with that, like, don't sit there, put that thing there. Like, it's just really inconsiderate. It had a sold out tiny, tiny, tiny show. And I was annoyed, but anyway, it was an amazing gig. Regardless, it didn't spoil my experience. It just made me bitter and twisted. Well, I think
Wow.
I was already bitter and twisted, but more
So
so.
I'm going to the O2 on Friday night to see Pulp in concert.
Oh, okay.
And they've sent out a warning to get there early because they're doing this thing where they're doing their show in two halves with a 20-minute intermission in between. So they're starting at 8 p.m. sharp, the first
Oh, wow.
set. And I think a lot of people are going to miss it
Yeah.
because nobody ever starts at 8 o'clock at an arena show. I've never seen it, never heard of it. It's always the earliest you'll get is 9 or like 8:55. And so they've sent out emails, but in a venue of 20,000 people, there are going to be a lot of people who don't get that message. So I think a lot of people are going to miss the first hour
Possibly.
of the show.
Yeah, possibly.
And come
I mean,
in
I was so lucky because 8:30 start for Ron Sexsmith. I was like, they could have warned people. Like, I would have turned up a bit later.
well, we've spoken
what
about
night is that? What night is that?
Friday night.
No, okay.
So we've spoken about this before about like how annoying it is to not know and have a time of a band starting, and so you go there and you wait.
Yeah.
And, they do it also because sometimes they don't know what time a band's going to start until the afternoon of or just before. But also, if everybody just comes for the headlining act, the opening act doesn't get seen by many people, and also the venue wants to make money on drinks. They want it in food sales. They want people to have like an hour or two to spend money at the bar. So I get the dynamics of it, but sometimes you don't want to go, or sometimes you don't have the time to go there and stand there.
Well, just the emotional energy as well, like dealing with, like, already it's like dealing with other people is hard enough. But when I went to the Water Rats, I was going to buy a drink at the bar. I ordered a Lyman because, as you know, I'd already had a glass of wine at the vegan. What's it called? You call it vegan social?
London Vegan Social.
London Vegan Social. I'd already had a glass of wine, so I was like, I don't want to drink anymore. So I went to the bar and I ordered a lime and soda, and then he said, "Oh, that'll be, I don't know, what was it, £1, £85." And I was going to pay with my phone. He was like, "Oh no, we've got I think he said a £5 card minimum," and I was just like, "Well, I don't want to buy £5 worth of soft drinks," and he was like, "Oh, you haven't got cash?" I was like, "No, I don't. I hardly ever have cash anymore, So I was like, "Well, I'll just have a glass of tap water then." So the venue could have made £1 something off of me, but they didn't accept.
You think it would be better
payments
for them to just take whatever card payment they could get, swallow the fees instead of getting nothing? Because there's got to be a lot of profit on a glass of lime and soda.
Yeah, it probably costs them about 6p. And they can charge £1.85, like even if there was a 5% card fee, which I doubt there would be. But yeah, it didn't make much sense. I'm going to Union Chapel next Tuesday night, I think it is, to see Melissa Etheridge. I've never seen her before.
Nice.
And I love that venue. But what's really fascinating, right, is that, I've spoken about Lucy Spraggan before, and I went and saw her actually at the Union Chapel a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
But I've been listening to Lucy Spraggan's audiobook recently. And in like the last couple of chapters, she talks about going on tour with Melissa Etheridge. And then she got into a relationship with Melissa Etheridge's daughter. And I was like, what? I didn't, well, I wasn't expecting that. Came out of nowhere.
Wow.
I don't think they're not together anymore. She's married to someone else.
How old
now.
was the daughter when this happened?
I don't know. I mean, an adult.
Yeah, like not 12 or something.
No, it was all legal. But yeah, it was just unexpected little factoid.
How weird, right? Like, it's like Kelly Clarkson, which kind of ties to the Alanis thing, because you sent me that clip of Kelly Clarkson and Alanis singing together. But she was in a relationship with the stepson of Reba McEntire.
Who? Kelly Clarkson was?
Kelly Clarkson was married,
Really?
wasn't she, to the stepson of Reba?
Oh,
And
I
then
didn't know
Kelly and
that.
Reba did an album together.
Yes, I do
But then
vaguely remember that.
but I don't know exactly what happened, and I don't want to defame this man, but I think he like cheated on Kelly and wasn't very nice to her. And she's done quite a lot of songs or commentary about his behavior. So I wonder what the relationship now is. If that happens, like, do Kelly Clarkson and Reba McEntire stay friends? Or if Lucy breaks up with Melissa's daughter, does Melissa and Lucy still stay friends?
Yeah.
How does that
I'll
work?
find out. I mean, yeah, I don't think Lucy's going to pop up at the gig or anything. I am actually hoping. I mean, it's a bit of a long shot, but Brandy Carlisle's playing in London next week as well, and I am hoping. I don't know if they know each other or not, but just two American lesbian singers. Maybe Brandy might pop up at Melissa's show. You never know. I live in hope.
Is this a genre that you're particularly interested in? Folk / alt country, lesbian, North American?
I mean, I'm interested in all of those things individually and together.
But they're very specific sort of genre that we're naming here. Like all the people that you're naming are very much from that realm of.
Well, I was going to say on Wednesday night I'm going to see Margot Price, and she's Americana country, but she's not a lesbian. So,
not that she's,
Well, yeah. I mean, she's married to a man, but yeah, as far as I'm aware, she's not a lesbian. So, I'm not tied. I'm not married to that genre.
You were talking before about having a little pony for a voice, like a hoarse voice. Do you know when you do karaoke? Like if you do go to karaoke night and you do like 6 or 7 songs across the evening, do you have a sore throat the next day? Or is it different when you're performing a song? And like with karaoke, is it same sort of stress on your voice?
Yeah, but it depends if you're doing it. If you're doing it in a big group, you're going to have breaks between songs. But if it's a small group, you might be singing like almost every song.
Yeah.
So if you're just using your voice constantly.
So people, before they go to do karaoke, they should do vocal warm-ups as well.
Or they should do rest their voice.
Like, what do you mean? Not speak all day?
Just, like try and have a day that doesn't have a lot of talking or interaction.
If somebody said to you, you can do 3 karaoke songs tonight, what would you pick?
Well, it depends on the crowd. Like, is it in public? Is it a private room?
Well, just think of it not so deeply. Just go, you're at a karaoke event.
All right.
They said you can only pick 3 songs across the course of the evening. What are you doing?
Mm-hmm. Probably Skater Boy by Avril, because everyone loves that song.
And it's good energy. It's like
it's really
and you
good
don't
energy.
have to be the best singer to. I mean, I'm not talking about your vocal ability, but you can just yell along to it.
Certainly hope not, Sue. But what Skater Boy? Probably Jesse James, or
by Cher.
Walking in Memphis by Cher, because both of them are crowd pleasers, even if people don't really know it. Like the older people in the crowd will know them. And then I don't know, the third one, it's hard. I mean, I know you are not traditionally a fan of doing karaoke yourself.
No, I can imagine you doing a Taylor Swift song just for the easiness to sing.
It's not actually. Her range is very different to mine, and there are a couple of Taylor Swift songs that I really like, but I've tried to do them along with karaoke tracks, and it's just not in the right range for me. So,
haven't you got the range to? Don't
have the range, no.
Well, what about a Chappell Rowan song then?
Maybe.
I have to rely on things that are more spoken word because of my lack of ability to carry a tune. So I can do something like What a Man by Salt and Pepper, so I can rap it a bit more.
Okay, but see, this begs a question then, because I used to love doing salt and pepper at
Hmm.
karaoke, either Shoop or What a Man. But in recent years, I've just felt that like a white man. I mean, I do it because I love salt and pepper, and I
Hmm.
love their musicality, and I love their rapping. Uh, but I think there's not always, but often an element when you do that in a karaoke setting. There's often an element of like, oh, it's funny because there's a white man rapping, and I find that really problematic.
I think that
And
could, I think that could apply to some circumstances. I don't think people now know enough about salt and pepper to make that connection. I think people
right,
just think you're just doing a song. Like, I don't think people know it.
okay,
Um, like, but if I got up and did like "Fuck the Police" by like NWA, yeah,
mm,
that would be seen as like a comedy bit. But
mm,
doing something like "What a Man," it's more, I don't know, it's just cool. It's like a cool, like retro cool, you know,
yeah,
salt and
yeah. I
pepper
suppose it.
pioneers, like absolutely legendary.
Mm,
Yeah,
I suppose it would depend a lot on the crowd, on the setting.
yeah.
Um,
But um, if I got up and pretended to act gangster and throw gang signs up and acted it like I was
yeah,
from the hood or something, yeah, that would be problematic. But if I got
yeah,
up
yeah,
with,
yeah.
my camp manner and did it, and because I love the song and I was
If
paying
you if you
homage to it,
mint if you minced your way through,
yeah, I mean, that would be fine, I think. But and yeah, like yeah, I wouldn't get up and do like songs with certain words in them that I wouldn't feel comfortable saying in public, like
yeah,
and then act like it was no big deal. But where's the best karaoke that you've ever been to? Like what actually, first of all, what makes good karaoke night out? Is it like the space, private room, the crowd? Like what makes a good karaoke experience?
so there's so many variables, uh, a good catalog, is
God.
kind of essential. Good
Yeah.
sound is essential. Um, and I'd feel like I'm not an expert on this, so I don't know. What about you? What do you think
Well,
makes for a good?
I sometimes think that the karaoke tracks can be so whack sometimes. Like they don't sound anything like the original music, and it's hard to
Mm,
suspend your disbelief when
mm,
the backing track is terrible. Or sometimes the backing vocals are so overpowering.
mm.
But did you know we used that? I know there was that karaoke service you were trying to use for New Year's Eve that didn't really
Yeah,
work. But I
yeah,
think it had the ability to turn the backing tracks on and off, didn't it?
yeah. It was
So,
if it
sorry,
if
the
it had
backing vocals.
if it had worked, it would have been really good because yeah, it had the ability to change the volume on just the backing vocals or eliminate them completely. It had the ability to change a lot of songs into different keys, which is really useful.
Yeah.
But it didn't work.
I
And
Yeah, and that's annoying. I also
mhm.
think that it's better if the screen with the lyrics is as forward as front as possible, so the person on stage is facing the crowd.
Yeah, that's
Because,
true.
you often have it, they set it up so it's kind of like back to the back
Mm,
corner. And so people
yeah,
stand there with their back half to the crowd, and it's not very
yeah,
entertaining. So it's best where the screen is at a sort of position where the people are facing out, or at least on an angle, and the crowd can also see the lyrics as well.
yeah,
Because they want to
yeah.
sing along, and so you've got somebody singing out to the crowd.
Hmm.
Um, I love when you get these karaoke hosts who like really, really fancy themselves as like crooners who they take it so seriously. So when it's their turn to fill in or they pencil themselves
Mm,
in for a song, they
hmm.
really, really give it their all but they act like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just another
Yeah, yeah.
Thursday night
I'm
for
just
me.
gonna do the song, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then when people go, oh, you do another one, they're like, no, no, no,
I
thanks.
see. I really enjoy sometimes the energy of doing karaoke in like a public place, and you've got like a
Yeah.
stage in a bar or a pub or whatever. Um, but sometimes it's so awkward. Like if somebody gets up there, and I'm not the best singer on earth, but you know, sometimes people get up there and it's so awful. I mean, there's just no other word, you know, it's so bad and you don't know where to look and you're trying not to laugh, you know, and no one, you know, you're trying to avoid everybody's gaze because it's just so uncomfortable. And it, you
G
know, it'll
G
be
A
one of
Y
those,
S. Everybody's gaze. GAYS.
yeah, everybody avoiding all of the gaze. Um, and it's just so uncomfortable. And, you know, sometimes that can be, you know, I mean, you know, everyone should feel encouraged to get up there and sing, but like, know your song, you know,
But
know
should
for a
they
start.
though? Should they be encouraged?
Well, yeah, they
Well,
should.
you
But,
know,
you know, know your song for a start. Don't
our
pick a
friend
song you don't
Derek,
know.
our friend Derek in Brisbane, he goes to karaoke all the time, and he isn't a great singer. He sounds like Peter Griffin singing. You know, Peter Griffin in Family Guy.
Does he watch this podcast?
I don't know, but I'm not embarrassed to say it. But that's what he sounds like. Like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like Peter Griffin, and he loves it, and he knows he sounds like that, and he just goes up and
Yeah,
yells and screams.
but I know Derek, and he's just, I'm sure he would, I'm sure the crowd would appreciate it anyway because he's just a fun personality. Whereas it's like someone takes themselves very seriously and they get up and they don't know the song well, they can't sing, or they sing the entire song in the wrong key, which I've seen. It's just like, oh, you know.
But I don't even know what the right key is. Like I can't sing. Like I can't sing. Like I don't know if I'm tone deaf or whatever. I can't sing. So I just yell out.
Wow.
And, yeah. The longer I go with not drinking alcohol, like it's been nearly 3 years, I think now,
Hmm.
the less opportunity there is for me to go to something like karaoke because it's not really a sober activity, is it?
Not really, no. I mean, I've done it sober, and yeah, it's not as fun as when you're drunk. And when you're drunk, you probably think you sound a lot better than you really do. But
But it also, because drinking lowers your inhibitions. And so you're like,
yeah,
oh, yeah, I'm more willing to make a fool out of myself or give it a go.
yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, I don't think I will. I'll probably have an opportunity to do karaoke anytime soon. But what about when you and Jordan sang the theme from The Nanny at Ricky Jean's in Lomita?
I was just going to bring up Ricky Jeans, but for another one. But yeah, our friend Jordan well, she's in Sydney now, but we knew her from Brisbane days. We were in LA, weren't we? And it's not called Ricky Jeans anymore. What's it called? It's called, anyway, it's some sort of divey bar in Lomita in the South Bay. But yeah, we did the theme from The Nanny. It was a lot of fun. I've still got the video somewhere. But no, that same night, I think you did Pussy Control by Prince. And did you do it with Vanjie? Did Vanjie
No, I
get up and sing
dedicated it to
You
Vanjie.
dedicated it to Vanjie, right? Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
outrageous, mate. I'm such a bad singer and I'm a bad singer. And you just like, so I don't think I'll ever be put in that situation again where I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll do that. That sounds like fun.
It's the
Because
kind
when
of
you're
thing you have
sober,
to be drunk
yeah,
to,
it doesn't
yeah.
sound like fun when you're sober. Like it just
No.
is not fun. But we made a few references. Like we started the show chatting just off camera before we started about Bubbles DeVere, which is a character
yeah.
from Little Britain. And then I made a reference by saying to Matt Lucas by saying she hasn't got the range.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about yesterday. I was thinking about Little Britain and what a hugely popular show it was. Like massive. Like they did arena tours and in character. But how wasn't that long ago? But they were doing things like blackface on TV.
Mm-hmm.
How outrageous! Like
I know. But I mean, it was a while ago. I mean, it was
in the
late
2000s.
noughties, I think.
Yeah, but that's
late
not that
noughties.
long ago.
Ah, it's 15 years ago.
Do
16,
you think
17 years ago.
Do you think society that we exist in understood in 2005 or 2009? Do you think that we understood that blackface was not cool?
Yeah.
So how did they get away with, and I mean, I used to watch it. I'm not trying to absolve myself here of, the participation. I
Well, it
watched.
was what was deemed acceptable at the time, and I mean, comedy is in that space, isn't it? Like comedy does often occupy that space of being just outside the realm or the limit of what is acceptable, and it
Yeah.
will often push things, and often when it's done in a smart way, it can actually be very effective. And I
Do
think
you think Little Britain was smart with what it did?
some of it was, but some of it wasn't. It had a whole lot of things going on because there were so many different skits, so many different characters.
So if we take, for instance, the character David, who was the Welsh gay guy who said he was the only gay in the village.
Yeah.
So the humor in that was about a self-unaware gay person who had built up the idea of how they were going to be ostracized for being gay, playing off the concept that a small Welsh village would be homophobic, when in reality, all the other characters didn't care. There was never, his homosexuality wasn't the butt of everybody else's joke.
No, it was his own sort of, like delusions.
Yes, and he
That
was
were
like
the.
a delusional character, and it was very funny. So that wasn't laughing at homophobia or homosexuality. It was laughing at that character's innate trait to be delusional. And so that was funny and I think clever in doing that. So it was allowing us to place something like a very camp, effeminate character at the heart of something, but their sexuality not be the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But what
and
about, okay, so also in Little Britain, what about the characters? And I don't know their names, but there was a series of skits where it would be like the village fate or
we talked
church
about this
fate.
a few episodes
Have we talked
back.
about it
Yeah, we
already?
talked about those characters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think that was clever because these characters, we were laughing at how ridiculous and racist they were. We weren't laughing that they were being racist and that's funny. We were laughing at they were getting their comeuppance for being racist.
Yeah, the joke was on them.
Yeah. And everybody in the periphery knew that they were awful. And the viewer, but you can't control how people perceive things, right? Like you don't know who's watching that going, oh yeah, I'd spew too if I ate cake made by a black person. You don't know, but you can't control that. You can't control how people perceive things. But what character on that show then can you think didn't come from a place of intelligence or nuance or critical, you can't really critically analyze it in a positive light?
Well, I mean, I think, Bubbles and Desiree, I mean, they were the two characters, and it was Matt Lucas and David Williams, and they both wore fat suits for it. And David Williams was in blackface. And although the comedic elements in the writing were very funny, I mean, the jokes and the personality, particularly of Bubbles DeVere, were very comical. They were very there were some really good comedic elements to it. Looking back at the time, it wasn't such a big deal to wear a fat suit. It was, the joke was wearing the fat suit, that was what was funny. But now it would be like very, very frowned upon. I don't think a lot of people would feel comfortable doing that on TV or in film or anything like that.
Do you know
but
what?
It was.
Yeah, I can't think of any other characters from that. Oh, what's the old closeted gay guy? The Catherine Tate thing, right? I'm trying to think of other things from that era. So, because I was thinking of Kath and Kim, but what's that character's name that Catherine Tate does?
It's not Leonard, is it? That's his friend.
The friend is Leonard.
Leonard, yeah.
I can't remember his name.
Who dear, me dear, gay dear, no dear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I find that clever and funny because to me, it talks to the reasons why somebody would remain closeted into their old age. Like to me, he is from an era where he would have had to hide his sexuality, that character. And it's to me, it's very nuanced. It's laugh out loud funny for the ridiculous nature of the dialogue, but it's also poignant in that you have to think, why is this guy like this? Like that to me is a clever, like satire of, that it's not just laughing at somebody for the sake of it, not laughing at someone's sexuality. Catherine Tate strikes me as somebody like that. But you know who I think does it really well, who treads a perfect line between including jokes about minorities, but also making it a point with it? And that is Kath and Kim, like the show.
All right.
Because
can you give me some examples?
So when Kath day night, she thought her daughter might be gay, and then she also thought she might be gay, and so she started reading up on what it's like to be gay, and like she was reading all stereotypical things, and it was from a place of exploration, and the comedy was her cluelessness. The comedy wasn't, I might be gay, and like, not like, like a Friends sitcom type thing where, ooh, don't touch me, I'm not gay. It was kind of like, ooh, I'm gay, oh, I better read this. And it's a comedy of errors based around her cluelessness, not a comedy of errors based around mistaken sexual identity, right? So the comedy is about her cluelessness. And so she's walking down the street and she's sort of panicking because she's like, oh my God, I'm gay and I don't know how to be gay. And the comedy is, well, she's not really gay. That's why she doesn't understand it. And she's like, Kathy, she's walking down the street and there's all these street signs flashing that were catching her attention. And it's like that restaurant in Newtown called Veg Out. And so the camera zooms in on the word veg. And she's like, ugh, and then it zooms in on the word out. And she's like, ugh. And then it's like another shop called Home. And then it shows the end of another sign that's just got the letter O on it. So it goes home, O. And she's like, oh no. And she drops her bag and runs down the street because she's overwhelmed by the reality of maybe having to come to terms with her sexuality. And then by the end of the episode, she's reconciled it, saying, oh yeah, I'm not. And like, it's not a joke that she dodged a bullet or anything. The joke is how clueless she is. And I think they did it when she found out, or she thought she might have Indigenous heritage. And so she went to the Kendone shop and bought the Indigenous print sweater or something. And it's...
So the joke is always on her cluelessness.
But they also bring attention to topics or minorities in society in a thoughtful way. Like they have conversations around Indigenous identity, or they have conversations around, queerness, and they're not jokes. Like not even any of the men in the sitcom in Kath and Kim say anything about, oh, gays, or don't bring that near me, or anything like that. Not like, in Friends or something like that, they did do that. Like people would react.
A lot of like, there was a lot of jokes around like, being perceived as gay being bad or an awful thing. Yeah.
And so I think Kath and Kim does that really well. And then, obviously, fast forward, we know that Magda Sabansky is a queer woman. Did you see
who has stage 4 cancer? I think,
cancer. Very sad. She's been doing some updates about that. But if you go back in time a little bit, where the three of them also used to make a comedy skit show together called Big Girls Blouse. Did you ever see any episodes of that?
I don't think I've seen a full episode. I've seen some clips of it on YouTube.
And they used to do similar sorts of irreverent humor that was either politically or socially minded. So there was one where they had the Gay Olympics. They went to the Gay Olympics, and it was Magda Sabansky was playing a character who was fencing, and she was talking, I don't know, it was something about feminism and dealing with feminism, and she was even though they were fencing with a sword, she was the world champion at taking offense. And so it was, she was like, someone would say something to her, and she would say, that's a patriarchal construct, blah, blah, what you just said to me, blah, blah, blah. And then she'd fence. And so she was taking offense. And it was very, very clever. And then, so it wasn't making fun of feminists. It was making fun of the dialogue around feminism, and then there was two of them. I forget which actors, but I know Jane Riley was one of them, and they were saying, okay, next up in the Gay Olympics, it's a lesbian couple trying to check into a hotel. And it was so funny. Like the person's going, okay, well, so that's a room with two twin beds, and they're both looking at each other nervously, going, no, a double. And then the person checking them in goes, so a double with a pull-out cot for the other one. And they both look at each other resignedly and go, yeah, okay. And then they come away, and the person's interviewing them saying, well, you missed out on a medal this time. So it's like funny. It's not laughing at gay people. It's laughing at
it's laughing at society's response to queerness and society's level of discomfort. Like in the same way that, you know, there was the Little Britain character who, you know, if she was told it was a recipe by a black chef, she would vomit. Like it's making fun of shitty attitudes. Yeah.
So I think Kath and Kim and the people who created that, what are their names? I just said Jane Riley.
Jane Riley and I'm blanking. I'm completely blanking. Jane
Everyone
Riley.
Watching this, all three people.
And everyone's like screaming, "You idiots! How do you not know?" So it's Magda Sabatsky, Gina
Riley. It's Gina Riley.
Gina Riley
and Jane something.
Jane,
and we can't remember.
Yeah, what's her name? Anyway,
but I think they do it extremely well, and did it with Kath and Kim extremely well. That balance of like the humor was intelligent and it was like socially tinged or politically tinged. I think they did it really well in Big Girls Blouse. I think they were quite ahead of their time with it, the way that they used that humor to make points about homophobia and racism in that. I think Little Britain did it well sometimes, and then I think they really missed the mark other times.
Yeah.
And so do you feel okay with knowing now, going back and looking at Little Britain, and how problematic a lot of it was, like a sizable chunk of it was, do you feel you're able to go back and listen to the parts that you don't feel that way about to appreciate them? Or do you kind of just, you don't watch it anymore at all?
Well, I don't watch it anymore, but I wouldn't say it's like a conscious decision not to watch it. I just don't tend to go back and watch comedy shows, like it's not something I would do. If I was, I don't know, if I was sat somewhere and the TV was on and it came on, I probably wouldn't switch it off, because I don't think, and I don't know if this is giving people more credit than they deserve, but I don't necessarily think even the problematic parts were done with bad intent. And I suppose you think of how long it takes to make a show like that. Like even in the mid-noughties when it was out, it probably... The sketches were probably written a couple of years before that even. So not to excuse it, but I think even Matt Lucas has said, he wouldn't make a lot of those characters. He wouldn't. If he was making a show today, he wouldn't include a lot of those characters.
Yeah, because I think he made particular reference to the two cross-dressing characters. What were their names? Do you remember? Was it Emily and...
Emily, yeah.
I can't remember.
What about Marjorie Dawes? Marjorie, the fat fighters, you see.
I kind of find that more on the side of the intelligent, nuanced commentary. I find that to be okay. And I suppose coming from me as a fat person who is, dealing, we've spoken lots of times about, eating issues and weight and everything.
Yeah.
And Matt Lucas is himself somebody who's lived with fatness, and so his comedy from that was coming from a point of view of the hilarity of the passive aggressive person who would be running a fat fighters club, like a Weight Watchers club.
But then there were the racist elements to Marjorie, and it's it's a very fine line. Like where do you there was the Indian woman in the group, and Marjorie would always, pretend not to understand her, or, say that she didn't understand her. And I mean, there is humor in that if you're laughing at people who are so closed to, people from other backgrounds, that they are inherently dismissive of people of color, for instance.
Well,
There's comedy
yeah,
in that, but you don't know how the viewers are seeing it. Are they seeing it as that, or are they being like, "Oh yeah, that's so funny. You can't understand people who, whose
yeah, but
English isn't their
that's
first
what
language or something."
I don't know if that's the responsibility of Matt Lucas. I think
Yeah.
as an artist, you have to weigh those things up all the time. Like,
Mm.
I mean, he's problematic as hell, but Dave Chappelle, where he quit his show at the height of his fame because he said he was telling jokes about other black people and stereotypical jokes about black people, thinking that
Mm.
everybody understood the humor was that he was laughing at racism. But he looked
Yeah.
out to the crowd and saw like a white rednecky looking guy
Mm.
laughing. And he had this sort of internal conflict. I don't know what he's laughing at. I don't know if
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
laughing at the act of racism being funny, or if he's laughing at it in the nuanced way that I mean for him to laugh at it. And so he quit
Mm.
his show and quit comedy for a long time. Then he came back and he said a lot of
Well,
transphobic
I
stuff.
yeah. I think I may have talked about this on the podcast before. I can't remember, but Margaret Cho, like when she first started out, a lot of her show was about her conversations with her mum, and her mum being Korean. She would put on a very strong sort of. She would speak English with a very strong Korean accent, with a lot of like grammatical errors and stuff like that, and she would imitate her mum as part of her live show. And she
Yeah.
said in an interview, I think, that she's doesn't do that anymore. She took it out of her show because white people would come up to her after the show to get a photograph, a selfie, get an autograph or whatever, and they would do impressions of her doing an impression of her mum. And she was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god, like this is just white people taking the piss out of a Korean woman. Like
Yeah.
they're missing the nuance in this situation here." So
Yeah.
yeah.
I once had that conversation with a friend of ours. I can tell you after their name. I don't want to put them on blast, but they were telling me a story about an interaction they had with somebody. And the person that they were having the interaction with was French. So when they told me that other person's dialogue, they did it
Yeah,
in a very exaggerated French accent.
I
And I
know
had
who
this
it is. You don't need to tell me afterwards. I already know
massive,
who it is.
massive, not argument, but sometimes heated discussion where I
Mm-hmm.
was trying to explain to them that they
Mm-hmm.
don't need, the point of the story wasn't that this person was French, and bringing the
No.
French accent into it, only you're trying to rely on stereotypical, preconceptions about French people to
Yeah.
try and heighten the drama
Yeah.
or
It's
the
not. Yeah. It's not. It's not a part of an integral part of the narrative.
yeah,
Is that French accent is relevant for any reason other than funny? It's funny because they're not speaking English with an English
yeah.
accent. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
to my friend's credit, our friend's credit, by the end of it, they said, "Oh yeah, I can see your point." Like,
Mm. Mm.
but it took a long time. Like, we talked for
Well,
about 2 hours about it.
yeah, well, I had a conversation about 2 years ago now, I think, and it was a guy. I don't really know him that well. I just know him sort of socially. He's like friend of a friend sort of thing, and he's of Eastern Asian background, but born and raised in the UK.
Can
And
you
he
do
was.
can you do his accent?
I'm doing his accent right now. He sounds as English as I do, and he was saying, "Oh, there's this karaoke thing he went to, tying it back to karaoke." He said, "There's this karaoke thing, and it's Chinese karaoke."
Mhm.
And I was like, "Oh, right. So like you have to speak Chinese to go." And he's like, "No, no. It's got the the lyrics written out or spelled out phonetically for English speakers underneath."
Yeah, yeah,
And I said to him, "That sounds like it would be so problematic. It would be like white people like making fun of a Chinese or the Chinese language, basically. When I say the Chinese language, Mandarin, you know. And he was like, "No, no, no, it's just fun." And I was just like, I it's not something I would go to because I feel like a lot of white people would be really playing up this stereotype of what Mandarin speakers sound like.
Yeah.
and it just sounded horrible to me. Like it just sounded really like, why would you go if you don't speak Mandarin? Why would you go to something like that other than that it's funny because it's not English? Do you know what I mean? Like I
I
don't.
don't know. I could get if it was like a K-pop night where kids or young people wanted to sing their favorite K-pop songs, and so
Yeah,
it was, because that is a whole scene and genre of pop music. I can
yeah.
get that, but yeah, like what sort of music in the UK do people know from China? Like it's a bit
No,
suspicious to
no.
me.
And if you don't speak Mandarin, like, aren't you just going to be doing a horrible, really lazy stereotype impression of what you think Chinese might sound like? Like that Catherine Tate sketch where she pretends she's like an executive assistant and she pretends that she can speak all these different languages, and
But
then she
see,
does like a.
I think that's funny because I think she's making fun of racist people.
She is, but then you don't know how other people are receiving and responding to that.
But that's what can you do? Like no
But
one
so
would
that's the
ever
thing, like
create
with that
any
Margaret.
art if
Yeah,
that
but
was
that's
the
the thing,
case.
like with that Margaret Cho thing, when she does that impression of her mother, she doesn't do it with racist intent, but she decided, oh, I can't control how people are construing or misconstruing my intention behind this, and they're missing the point of where the comedy lies.
But
And
I don't want to talk on like how a woman speaks or presents herself through her art, but
mm,
there might, and I don't want to talk to other people's realities, but there might be a lot of people who are Asian or Korean who found what Margaret Cho did offensive. Like as somebody
oh
who
yeah,
doesn't hold that accent herself.
yeah, yeah,
Because
totally.
and we saw her a lot of times. She really did play up that idea of like missing out certain sounds or
Hmm.
using certain words or the wrong tenses.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
there might be a lot of Korean people or Asian Americans who found that to be really
Oh
offensive, and
yeah,
maybe
I'm
that was
sure.
part
Yeah,
of her reckoning with stopping doing it as well.
possibly, possibly. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, with comedy? Like it does often just exist slightly ahead of what's it called, the Overton window. What's politically and societal or socially acceptable. Um, and that sometimes is the genius of good comedy, that it's just slightly outside of that. But yeah, I guess often it can go a little awry.
Talking of comedy, in a few days I'm going to Disneyland Paris. Did you
Oh
know?
right. Well, yeah, but wait, Gloria watches this podcast, I think.
I don't think so. No.
Well, she likes and comments on our Instagram feed. So,
Oh, no, that's isn't that Hill's mum, Gloria? You know,
oh, is
his
it?
mum and his sister have the same name,
Oh, I didn't know that.
and neither of them speak English.
Okay.
So I don't think she would watch an hour of this just to hear this last bit.
When are you going?
Going to Paris on Monday and Disneyland on Tuesday. But
Oh, okay.
just I remember that time we went there and like it was raining and freezing. Do you remember?
It was Christmas time, so it was December, and it was so miserable and cold. Um, it was like 2 degrees. It was grey, and Monique and I, this is your sister, Monique and I bought those yellow cagoules. Um, it was just vile. It was so wet and
And I can
cold. I don't
remember
really
there not
remember.
being any vegan food there. And
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
what year was it? 2001 or something?
yeah, probably around
And
there,
I can remember there
2000.
being no vegan food, and all I could get was you were trying to speak French to the waiters in the restaurants,
Restaurant.
and all we could work out was French fries. And I
I
ate
thought we had pasta. I thought we had
no.
pasta with that tomato sauce or something.
I remember having across the day being wet, sodden feet, freezing in those yellow plastic coats, eating about 3 bowls of French fries across the day and feeling rotten to the core. Like it was
Yeah.
so horrible.
People
And
don't appreciate when people moan about, oh, it's so difficult being vegan in this day and age. I'm like, please, you
oh,
have no
and
fucking idea what it was
and
like, 20 years ago.
and of course, I've looked at their menus, and it's not as good as like California Disney, where the vegan food is really great. But
Hmm.
in Paris, there's vegan pasta, vegan hot dog, vegan cakes, vegan sausage.
Hmm. Hmm.
There's all sorts of stuff. I mean, it doesn't look great, but it looks fine, and it doesn't even look super expensive. So it's complete world away from. But I'm very upset because my favorite ride at Disneyland is that, is it called Big Thunder Railroad? You know, that train
Mm.
that goes in the mountain and goes really fast, and it's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
steam train.
yeah.
Apparently, the Paris one is closed for renovations.
Oh,
And
really?
so I'm a bit
And
annoyed because it's not the sort of place I really want to go to very often,
yeah,
you know?
do they? I think I asked you this. I don't think they don't have the Star Wars park in Euro Disney, do they?
No,
Disneyland
but they've
Paris,
got
whatever
some
it's called.
Star Wars stuff. So, Space Mountain.
Hmm.
They've turned it to Hyperspace Mountain in the Paris one. So it's Star
Okay.
Wars themed. So it's the same ride, but they've just stuck all like fucking Star Wars decals everywhere.
All
And
right.
like, when you're waiting, you hear like Chewie every now and then go, "Ooh," or something, while
Yeah,
you're waiting.
yeah,
So, and then there's like the bit where you can walk into a room and meet some of the characters, or there's
yeah.
probably like a theater where the seats vibrate while you're in a hyperspace or something. So there's
Right.
nothing,
Okay.
nothing
But they don't
super
have like,
special.
yeah, they don't like the US ones have that whole new section,
Yeah.
which is all based around Star Wars and stuff. So
Have you
yeah.
been to that yet?
No, I still haven't
Oh,
been. So I really,
so the Paris one is just about to open. They've got like a Frozen land, based on the movies Frozen.
right. Okay.
That's their next big attraction. But I love all the really cheesy, like Peter Pan ride and Small World ride, and things where you just sit there, like Pirates of the Caribbean, and you just sit there and you float along and watch animatronics. Like I
Yeah.
love stuff like that because it's just relaxing. It's tacky. It's funny. Borderline racist, of course, most of it. But
No, not even borderline. It's like explicitly racist in some, but not so much in the modern parks, but the original
oh,
one,
they've
that
really tried to
Disneyland in
change it.
California. Like
Yeah,
it's like really problematic.
yeah.
But I would still like to go to the new Star Wars section at some point. But I mean, I don't know, don't want to say too much on the podcast, but yeah, the situation in the US at the moment is so beyond words, really. I mean,
It's
just
dire. I mean, we
it's
haven't even
just
spoken about what's going on in Los Angeles right now, but
no, I
I mean
know
that
it's
might be a whole episode. But we would
it might be,
also,
but also like I've got family in the States, I've got friends in the States. Anna and I are planning to go for our 50th to Dollywood next year. It's been in the works for years, this plan of ours. And now people are getting turned away, people are getting all their devices confiscated and searched, and all their social media reviewed and flagged. And I mean, we've said a lot of shit about Dump and Lone Scum on this podcast,
Mhm.
and I don't think our use of synonyms, or what do you call it, nicknames for them, will necessarily evade the authorities. But um, I'm worried now about, if I go, will I have problems even getting into the country? It's
And also not only getting into the country, but I would be worried for my safety being there. I mean, there also, Hill is my, for anyone listening who doesn't know, like my husband is Mexican.
hmm,
There's absolutely no way that I would encourage him to take a trip to the USA.
no, no,
And I don't want to go somewhere where my partner is
no.
at such
And
risk. Like,
well, that's the other part of it. Apart from like your own personal access to the country, whether you could get in, whether you'd have problems getting in, whether you'd get in okay, but do you want to be supporting a regime like that? Like by going there, do you feel complicit in the the political situation?
yeah, yeah,
It's just
it's,
really, I don't know. I really don't know what to feel or what to think about it. But
I mean, what would
it's
it take to get you to say, hey, I'm not going to go to that trip next year? Like, what would have to happen?
I don't know. That's a really tough one. Might have to think about it, and we can discuss it in next week's episode.
Well, maybe you and
perhaps,
Anna
but
should do a trip to Australia instead, and you can come and visit us. If Hill and I make it to Australia, you can come and do a trip to Australia instead, and we can do like a road trip down the East Coast, and we can go to Movie World or Dream World or something.
I know, but it's not Dollywood, is it?
I know,
this
but
is it.
But it might be something like
If Paris has got a Disney park, why can't they have a Dollywood in Paris? That's all I'm saying.
Well, there really should be Dollywoods everywhere, right? Like that.
Yeah, Dollywood Europe.
How good would that be?
Shall we start a campaign?
Yeah.
I mean, Dolly's got the money.
Like that time I started a campaign to get Nena Cherry's album Raw Like Sushi remastered. Do you remember?
No, I have no
I started a
recollection of this.
Facebook group to get people to like petition the record company to remaster.
When was this?
Before they did it, because it got done. So anyway,
Right.
years ago when I did it, I don't know, maybe about 7 years ago or something.
I have no memory of this at all.
And it like got a lot of people following it, and then she even shared it and commented saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe there's interest in this, blah, blah, blah." So it got her attention, and she laughed about it, that people were trying to do this. And then, like 2 years later, it happened. So I don't want to take full credit for the
sounds like you are, Sue. It sounds like you are.
Maybe credit is due, and so credit should be given.
How did I not know this fact? I don't think I'm in this Facebook group. I would join the Facebook group if I'd known about it.
I've got the remastered vinyl here because I bought it the day it came out after all of that.
Who are you looking for credit in the liner notes?
I looked in the liner notes, and it just said nobody gets any credit except Nena Cherry.
I was not aware of that. Do you remember my Facebook group, my appreciation for Beck Cartwright's poem to Leighton Hewitt? Do you remember?
Have you got that poem? Can you read it out before we go?
Shall I do a quick? I'll do a quick reading.
So anyway, if you don't know, Beck Cartwright was a soap star who was on Home and Away, which is a telenovela / soap opera in Australia. And she was also a failed pop singer. And she had a song called All Seats Taken. And she married a very famous sporting personality called Leighton Hewitt. And he was a famous tennis player in Australia. And they sold their wedding photos to like a gossip magazine. They were so tacky and trashy. And she read out a poem when she got married instead of vows. And Josh is about to do a reading of the Beck Hewitt.
And I was going to do it in an Australian accent, but then I was like, given what we've been discussing in this episode, maybe that's not appropriate.
No.
To be playing on the accents of other countries. So I'll read it. I'll do a straight reading of it.
You've got a slight Australian accent anyway.
I know. I've got like a little Australian twinge. I really don't know. Do you want the whole thing? It's quite long.
How long is it?
It's quite long. I'll do the first stanza, if you like. I really don't know where to start, but I definitely know you've captured my heart. It started that night you called me up to see if I'd play in the Starlight Cup. Way back then, little did we know that our love for one another could grow and grow. A text message or two is what kept us in touch, and I want you to know that I love you so much. Anyway, it goes on and on like this.
How long? How many stanzas are there?
That's like not even a quarter of it.
What's the last bit? Read the last bit. I love it.
I'm trying to. It's not laid out very. Engaged. I can't speak. Engaged and then married, and now one on the way. I'll take such good care of you every day. It's safe to say I'll love you more and more. I'm marrying you today. I couldn't be more sure. Rebecca Hewitt, I'm your wife.
That's it? The end?
Yeah, and I don't know.
What an arsehole.
Oh no, sorry, no. Sorry, this is really badly formatted on the page. Okay, Rebecca Hewitt, I'm your wife. I promise you one thing: stick with me, and you'll have a bloody good life. And that's it.
Okay,
it's very cringe. It's so cringe. Anyway, I started a Facebook group.
Well, could you put a link? Well, can you put the whole poem in the comments of this video on YouTube? If anyone
Sure.
wants to
Shall I
read
put it
the
in the
entire
liner note? I'll put it in the liner notes for the episode. So if you're accessing it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you can see it there as well.
Yeah, have a read of the whole poem. Maybe I'll read it out at the next Queer Open Mic.
Yeah, go on. It'd be better than some of the performances we've had.
Shh, don't say that. That's not very nice.
Well,
my God, great community organizer you are.
Not many. No, most of them are really good. But just I'm just saying, like there have been ones over the years which have not been particularly good, and
you include yourself in that, Sue?
Yes, I do, and that's the beauty of an open mic. You get the whole range.
Should I go in drag as Beck Hewitt to read it?
No. I thought you were going to say, should I go in blackface? I was like, definitely not.
No, I wouldn't do that.
All right, we should leave it there, wrap up. But I'll put Beck's poem in the liner notes, the liner notes, the show notes.
Well, next episode I'll have a recap of not my CPAP, which I haven't done for a while. I haven't recapped on that for a while. I'll have a recap on my experience seeing Pulp and my experience of going to Disneyland Paris. So stay tuned. Come back to that. What are you going to report back on next episode?
I'll report back on my Melissa Etheridge and Margot Price shows.
And let us know if Brandy Carlisle.
I will. All right. Until then, folks, follow us, comment, like, share, and we'll be back in your feeds this time next week.
Okay. And we didn't tell anyone where to find us or anything.
Well, there's no time. We've run over.
All the links are in the description and everything. So, but yeah, do subscribe to the YouTube channel if you can, please. We really want that as well.
Exactly. All right, folks. We'll be back soon.
Okay.
See you then.
Bye.